Before I left for the wall, my nephew Anthony crafted this armor for me. I put it on and became forever known as the man in the Iron Man mask. Over the years, many have asked me why I don't take this armor off. Well, let's just say I learned my lesson long ago about removing metal from skin in subarctic temperatures when I tried to take off me codpiece. This is Stark Raving. Welcome back to Westeros, my friends. I've named this latest series of adventures, What is Dead May Never Die, or How to Succeed in Talking Your Wife into a Three-Way Without Really Trying. On that note, let's check in on Renly Baratheon, youngest brother of the late King Robert, as he rallies his armies to take the Iron Throne.
Lady Stark arrives at the camp of Renly Baratheon in time to see two knights duel. Sir Loras yields, and the victor removes its helmet, and we see that the knight is a woman. For her win, Lady Brienne asks to serve on Renly's personal guard, which he grants. Catelyn exchanges pleasantries with Renly and his wife Marjorie, when Loras points out that Robb Stark should have come himself if they want an alliance.
My son is fighting a war, not playing at one.
Later, Loras and Renly are fooling around, but Loras is put off by Brienne's victory over him. He sends in his sister, who attempts to seduce Renly.
Yes, she's truly hideous. It's days like this I regret the codpiece accident.
He fails to become aroused, something he puts off onto the wine, but she lets him know she understands his tastes and offers a three-way with her brother. Either way, she needs to become pregnant to secure his alliance with her father's army.
So, no pressure. With their mother engaged in trying to secure this alliance, let's check in with the rest of the Stark children.
Bran has another dream. He sees the world through the eyes of his dire wolf, Summer. Maester Luwin explains that although there used to be magical people who could assume animal form, that time in Westeros is over. Sansa Stark is having dinner with Cersei and her children, and they discuss her coming wedding to Joffrey. Her somewhat shell-shocked demeanor shows just how numb she's become in her time here. Meanwhile, Shae is getting impatient. She's bored of hiding out in Tyrion's room. This problem is solved when Tyrion sends her to Sansa's quarters. She's Sansa's new handmaiden. Arya asks the Night's Watch recruiter Yoren how he sleeps having seen horrible things. Knowing she's still troubled by her father's death, he tells her of a man who killed his brother. Though he forgot what his brother looks like, he never forgot his killer's face, and eventually found him again and murdered him.
I buried an axe so deep into Willem's skull I had to bury him with it.
Yoren never was one to let go of a grudge. Or an axe handle. Ha! God, I'm funny!
They're roused from sleep by the return of the King's Guard. They've come back with their promised reinforcements, and things quickly go bad.
In the name of King Joffrey, drop your weapons.
I don't think I will.
So be it.
I always hated crossbows. Take too long to load!
Arya hands an axe off to the Night's Watch prisoners lest they burn to death, but is then captured. They brutally kill one boy, and Arya seizes on that to tell them the dead child was the Gendry they had been sent to find.
He loved that helmet.
And one of my fellow soldiers in the Night's Watch. How fare they in Craster's garden of perverted delights?
Craster brings back Jon Snow and orders the Night's Watch out of his home. Later, Jon realizes that his commander already knew what Craster was doing.
Wildings serve crueler gods than you or I. Those boys are Craster's offerings.
Offerings? He's murdering his own children. He's a monster.
Many a time, that monster's been the difference between life and death for our rangers. Your uncle among them.
Samwell gives Gilly a parting gift, the thimble his mother gave to him when he left for the Wall. He asks her to watch over it until he returns.
That sweet, lovable fellow. They'll burn him for fuel the first night things go bad. Oh well. Speaking of unthinkable acts, let's check in on the Greyjoys.
Theon exchanges harsh words with his sister over her earlier deception before their father arrives. Theon feels insulted that he is given one boat in their fleet and told to raid fishing villages, while Yara is in charge of the main attack fleet. He finally rips into dear old Dad.
Your time with the wolves has made you weak.
You act as if I volunteered to go. You gave me away, if you remember. The day you bent the knee to Robert Baratheon. After he crushed you. Did you take what was yours then? You gave me away! Your boy! Your last boy! You gave me away like I was some dog you didn't want anymore! And now you curse me because I've come home!
Later, after some thought, Theon burns his letter warning Robb of his father's treachery and retakes his vows to the drowned god the Greyjoys worship.
And what episode would be complete without checking in on my favorite family of wealthy, dysfunctional psychopaths?
Not having a suite at the Satai. I want the $2,500 room, the best room that they have.
I don't think it's asking for too much to stay in a nice hotel, in a suite. Thank goodness I'm not asking for a private plane.
No, not them. I mean the Lannisters. It's Bruce Jenner I really feel sorry for.
Tyrion continues to secure his position as King's Hand. He tells Pycelle, Littlefinger, and Varys that he plans to marry his niece off to secure an alliance. However, he tells each man that a different family is to receive the marriage and to not tell the queen. When Cersei admonishes him for wanting to send Myrcella to Dorne, he knows that Pycelle betrayed him. He tells the Queen Regent that war is coming and it's not safe for her daughter in the city, and this is being done to protect her. Later, he has his men imprison the elderly councilmen. Littlefinger's put out by the deception and broken promises made to him, but Tyrion offers him the chance to find his crush, Catelyn Stark, and arrange Jaime Lannister's release.
Oh, I'm sure Catelyn can't wait to throw herself into the arms of the man who betrayed her husband, leading to his beheading and the imprisonment of her daughters. Littlefinger's in for a heap of good loving. Let's take a closer look at these events.
I've mentioned in previous episodes that the Dothraki storyline has been going nowhere. Well, it's even worse in this episode, as they've been cut to give time to the others. I'll continue to wait in the hopes that Dany and her people get some screen time, as her story was one of my favorites last season. The introduction of Renly's camp provides us with two new interesting female characters. Brienne, who has an underlying faith and love in her new king, and the Queen Marjorie, who is the opposite, a practical woman who knows where she stands in her husband's eyes and is fine with it. However, Renly himself and Sir Loras didn't bring anything to the show other than a lover's spat over hurt feelings. With the Lannisters, I felt a bit disappointed. It was nothing we hadn't seen previously. Tyrion is clever and gets rid of another threat to his position, while Cersei loses her temper and then gets all remorseful. Although I did enjoy Pyrell's arrest scene, it was more of the same from Janos' deportation last episode. The Night's Watch stuff wasn't very memorable either, except for the bit where Jon realizes his commander is ignoring lesser evils to go after the greater ones. That's a harsh lesson to learn. The Stark daughters stole the show when Sansa continues to vacillate between coyness and depression. She's under no illusions that she's a prisoner, and you can really see her distrust of Shae fight against her yearning to not be alone. Arya, too, has a good scene with Yoren, where she tries to come to terms with her father's death and the stress it's placed her under. Also, the raid on their camp was the only real action outside of Brienne and Loras' duel, and it was welcome. And what the heck is going on with Bran? It's really starting to come into focus that these aren't just dreams, and I, for one, want to know more. Strangely enough, the best scene in this episode was the Greyjoys. The scene where Theon finally expresses his outrage at his father was fascinating. A man who expected to walk in and have everything handed to him, but instead has been humiliated, pointing out the failures weren't his but his father's. I feel like that scene is where he starts to earn back a little bit of their respect. I also enjoyed his consecration of the drowned god. I'd like to learn more about that religion and what it means to the Islanders.
Overall, I felt this was a superior episode. While the Dothraki and Robb Stark were absent and the Lannisters just sort of go through the motions, the rest of the characters added some much-needed intrigue and tension to the story. I give What is Dead May Never Die 4 severed heads of Sean Bean out of 5. Now, today's question about Westeros is from Natsu Ronin. Oh, I suppose I mispronounced that name too. He asks, why no women on the wall? My friend says the Night's Watch is like that, but I didn't know what he meant. I have a woman who's a friend and she is nice. Well, I'm sure she is. I suspect your friend was being a smart-ass. Just give him a rabbit punch to the kidneys the next time you see him. You'll be better off for having done it. As for why no girls, well, that's a simple one, really. As you may or may not know, most of the recruits are made up of convicts who escaped death by serving a life sentence on the wall. Others are outcasts with a high sense of honor or thirst for danger that demands they serve our order despite the terrible living conditions and the high mortality rate. In other words, there isn't a woman stupid enough to join this Night's Watch. Remember, if you have a question about Westeros, leave it in the comments section below in quotation marks, and I just might answer it on the next episode. Until then, I am Lord Stark, and this is Stark Raving!